Welcome everybody to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe. I'm here with my co-host
TGO.
CGO or George, and today was a slow news day for EPL for transfers, so we will be talking about two managers that have been under pressure by fans. That is Thomas Frank and Arne Slot, who have both underperformed expectations. Tottenham are in 14th place with 28 points from uh, 23 games. Liverpool are in sixth place with 36 points from 23 games. But Liverpool won five straight to start the season, and so they've not done well after that, and have been in probably worse form than even Tottenham after that. So there's a lot of pressure from fans over the last month, 2 months for both of these managers. Arne Slot obviously won the league last year. Thomas Frank coming in brand new to the club after a sustained success at what club, George? Brentford. And so, George, what are your thoughts on these manager situations? Do you feel like the fans are justified? What are your thoughts?
Well, I will start with Thomas Frank. Remember last season, part of the reason why Ange Postecoglou was sacked was based on the fact that Tottenham finished 17th on the table in the Premier League last season. Despite winning the Europa League, he was still being fired. And now, people thought bringing in Thomas Frank, based on what he has done at Brentford, he'll be able to do some spectacular stuff. He started well in the league, the first few games, and then before you know it, Tottenham went back to their normal style of not always living up to expectation. Currently, they're on the 14th position, and if you look at it, the win rate of Tottenham in the Premier League is about 30%, which is very poor. I mean, their last 10 Premier League games, they've only won just two. That is not something that is very encouraging. I'm sure most Tottenham fans will not be happy with that. It's not a good, apart from the Champions League, where they are currently, I think, fifth on the Champions League table. I think the Champions League, they've been doing well. But again, you have to consider the kind of oppositions they've encountered in the Champions League. So they've not really played uh, very great teams like that, apart from maybe Borussia Dortmund and some few teams like that. So I think Thomas Frank needs to really do something about the team. We know there are injuries like the likes of Madison and a couple of them, Kuliski and the rest of them. Those guys are out. But remember, they spent a lot of money to bring in players like Xavi Simon, the likes of Mohamed Kudus. These are quality players. So that's is enough for any fan to be unhappy with the performance of the team. And then for Liverpool,
Now, George,
um,
let me comment on just respond to some of your things you said. I think that I don't believe Tottenham's squad is that good. I disagree with you that Kudus is quality. He's very quality 1 out of every 5 games. One of them happened to be against my Brentford this season. But the other 4 games, he doesn't really do very much. He has a hot head. I know he got several red cards over at West Ham. I don't think he's got any this year, but he does have a very hot head. I feel like he goes invisible in several games a year, and if the fullback has pace and quickness, then Kudus doesn't have the intelligence to really beat that fullback consistently. Xavi Simons, as good as he's not a bad player, but would he start on Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, even maybe Liverpool this year? But these aren't players who are gonna grab a team that's in 14th and drag them up to 9th, 8th, 10th, 6th on their own. And they are the kind of young players with Simmons that Tottenham should be signing, the kind of players that can develop into that player that's going to drag a average team to good or a good team to great. I do think Xavi Simmons does have that potential, but he's not there right now. And, I think that Tottenham need a manager that's going to develop those players. And I feel like, looking at Thomas's Frank track record at Brentford, he did develop several players, and Buemo, Rea, Wisa, to be quite good over many years, and I do feel like he is fully capable of doing that at Tottenham. And I do feel like most of the pressure is coming from fans and not ownership. But sorry, go on.
No, no. If you look at now, look at teams like Sunderland. Now you can't compare the quality of players you have in Tottenham with Sunderland, but Sunderland is above uh, Tottenham. So if a club has spent such kind of amount, even they brought in Conor Gallagher just this January, and yet there is no much difference yet. Like I told you, they've only won just 2 games in their last 10 games. That's not impressive for a team that have spent so much like that during the summer's transfer window. And now, even in January, they've also signed a player like Conor Gallagher. So the fans have every right to complain. They have every right not to be happy. And mind you, Tottenham is even out of the FA Cup. So what it means is that they may end up trophyless this season. That's a team that even won a trophy last season, even though they were very poor in the league. And the manager who won them the trophy last season and finished poorly in the league was sacked. So if at the end of the day, because I don't know if Tottenham has what it takes to win the Champions League, because that's the only competition where they even have a chance of even saying they want to win a trophy, because the Premier League is out of sight. So,
Tottenham owners, though, they don't care about trophies, and this is the unfortunate reality of several ownership groups, like even Chelsea. I mean, Liverpool's owners certainly aren't complaining about trophies, and they're much better run. But their end goal is not trophy. Their end goal for Tottenham, Chelsea, these American owners is profit. Tottenham is not owned by Americans, but I mean their goal is profit. And there's been one team to make money in the history of the Premier League has a net profit. You know what team that is, George? Tottenham. They had one of the best strikers of all time graduate their academy about 15 years ago. And you know what they did with that success that he brought them? And that striker probably stayed at their club 2 or 3 years too long. And they built a stadium instead of building a squad. And that stadium is amazing. But they also put up the prices really high so that real fans can't really attend to the stadium and the fans that have been going for decades. And that's unfortunate, but shows the priority of the owners. The owners care about making money, and Thomas Frank can develop those. If he develops one or two of those players, talented players, and £100 million players, and keeps them in the Premier League and wins a couple games, that's what the owners care about. I feel like more than actually winning a trophy.
well, if you say they are not interested in trophy, I don't want to agree on that aspect, because I'm sure even though they have profit in mind, but they will still like to win trophy as well. Because one of the things that makes a fan happy is the trophy you win, not the profit you make. So it has to be a win-win situation, and I'm sure every management of every club always have that in mind, that winning a trophy, especially for a club like Tottenham. Tottenham is one of the clubs with a high fan base in England. So I'm sure the fans want trophy. And if you are not giving them that, before you know, you start losing your fan base. The reason why Chelsea has built a fan base today is because of the success they recorded during the time of
But George,
Roman Abramovich.
there's a contradiction in what you just said because Tottenham have won one trophy in the last 30 years? Is that right? And
No,
they
no, no. I
still
don't. I
have
don't think it's 30 years, because remember, I think I can't remember the year
in
now.
20 years they've won one trophy. In that 20 years, that fan base has actually shot up just by doing somewhat well in the league, having Harry Kane. They've actually been able to sustain that pressure from their fan base for over 20 years about not winning a trophy. Their fan base won a trophy, and I think for the most part, we're happy about Ange leaving last summer. I don't think that they weren't necessarily excited about Thomas Frank being their replacement, but they were generally happy with Ange leaving. And again, they haven't won they've won one trophy, and they still were able to grow the fan base like crazy. So,
Well, but if you can't compare their fan base with clubs like Chelsea, who have been winning trophies, Liverpool, as Arsenal has not won uh, the Premier League since 2004. But the before then, they already have a very large fan base. And I must tell you, this period that they haven't won the league, and then they were able to win the FA Cup at some point, they must have lost some fan base because a lot of fans want to win the league. They want you to win the league or win something like a trophy because that gives them bragging right. If you can't win trophy for them, then many of them might feel a bit discouraged. So
You know,
that's the issue.
George, I disagree too. I feel like there's a lot of fans out there who support a team because they grew up there, support a team because their father, their grandfather. I support Brentford because I have a personal connection with the club. In American football, I support Philadelphia Eagles, who didn't win a single thing until my 30s. They've won two Super Bowls in my 30s, thank goodness. But, um, I grew up there and I grew up miles from the stadium and I'm a fan, not because of trophies. And I do feel like for a lot of these clubs, us foreign fans, place our personal values on these fans when in reality, like if you grow up next to the stadium, your priority isn't trophies. If you teach in a school that's you can see the stadium from and all the kids are all about the game, that's what I feel like football is all about, not trophies. I do feel like there are some clubs where that's different, but for the 100 clubs in the pro, leagues in England, 85 out of 92 aren't going to win a trophy this year, and their fans are going to enjoy just going seeing them every week.
The reason why I'm talking about winning trophies is remember now these are a set of fans. Maybe sometimes some of them are maybe natives of where the clubs are. Such kind of fans we always stand by the club regardless of anything. But there are fans who are outside the country, in other parts of the world, in Asia, in Africa, who supports the club. Most times they support the club because of maybe the kind of success the club has achieved in the
If you're
past.
an Asian fan and you chose Tottenham because of success, you are, I don't know, that might be a bit not consistent. If you picked Manchester United because the success, that's a consistent viewpoint. But if you chose Tottenham Hotspur because you wanted them to win trophies and you're an international fan, that's on you when they don't win trophies because they haven't really been consistently winning for decades. My opinion.
You know, when Pochettino was there, they were always coming very close. So a lot of fans, I knew of people who started supporting Tottenham when Pochettino was their coach. They were playing very good football then, and they were very close to success. Unfortunately for them, I knew they played the Champions League final with Liverpool, which they lost. They came close to winning the league, which they lost to, I think, the Leicester City. And then they came close at some point.
They
So
lost to Chelsea too. Chelsea won the league one
so,
year, yeah.
so, so that could give a lot of people some kind of hope. But at the end of the day, it didn't turn out that way. So these things happen sometimes.
Yeah. Also, if you're a fan and a couple seasons of we're gonna reset and get a bunch of young players in and hopefully build them up with the right manager for developing players and they leave, I feel like you're also not the best fan in the world. My personal thought. Uh, so it's interesting what Tottenham's up to. I also feel like Premier League is a lot harder. We even see the top teams in Premier League being less consistent than we did 2, 3 years ago. There's a combination there of a lot of middling teams being much better. The promoted teams this year are actually very good compared to what we've seen in the past. Other than the two of the three promoted teams have been competitive almost every single week, and Burnley has had moments too. Wolves have been the really only uncompetitive team, so it is a more difficult Premier League. If I were to look at the table, I was looking at the table, George, and I saw only a couple teams would actually be happy with their manager. That's Aston Villa, Arsenal, Sunderland, Brentford, maybe Fulham, probably Leeds. But other than that, maybe Everton too. Maybe 6 or 7 out of 20 would be like, you know what, we're happy. And that's just not sustainable. You can't fire half the managers in the league every season.
Well, for Liverpool fans, they are not happy because the reigning champion of the Premier League, one expects them to be competing at least for the league, not the way they started this season. You can imagine last season when they won the league, they played 38 games in the Premier League and only lost four. But in 23 games, they've already lost about 7 games.
Yeah.
And then their last 10 games, I think they've only won 3 games. And
Mhm.
then this year, they've played about 5 games in the Premier League and they haven't won any. So,
Liverpool's a different situation. We can talk about it in a different podcast, George. We're almost at time, so I'm gonna just give our last questions, then we can close out. Thanks everybody for listening. Please respond to these questions on whatever platform you follow. Um, Question: do you think the Tottenham squad is good enough to challenge for Champions League spots right now? Do you think that Thomas Frank deserves to keep his job? And if not, do you have any names out there that you think could do a better job with Tottenham with this current squad of players and just their goals as a club right now? Thanks everybody for listening. Please respond below, and we appreciate your time.